Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Again, if you just joined us, my name is Josue Sanchez. I'm with Computer Wise Kids. Today, we are going to be discussing Google Classroom, some of the benefits from using Google Classroom, and I'll be covering how to create a classroom, create assignments, how students can join your classroom, and grading, and a few other things along the way. If you are looking at my screen, you see I'm in a Google Slides presentation. I'm going to repost the link in the chat for those of you that just joined us. You can click on this link to access the presentation. If you do want to make a copy of this for your own records, I welcome you to do so by going over here to File and then select Make a Copy, and you can select Entire Presentation. This will make a copy of the presentation in your Google Drive, and you can have access to it whenever you need to refer to it. If you prefer to make or download it to your computer as opposed to having it on the drive, you can go to File, Download, and select either PowerPoint or PDF document. Just please note that if you do this, there might be some formatting issues. Okay, we do have a couple more people who just joined us. And I'm going to go ahead and repost that link for those of you who just signed in. Okay. And in case you don't see the link right away or you can't find it, I will be reposting this link at the end of the presentation. I don't really go through this too much other than at the beginning. This is more of a resource for you to go through. It has detailed steps on basically everything I'll be covering today, creating a classroom, how students can join a Google Classroom, a little bit on co-teaching, stream post assignments, grading, feedback, and as well as my information at the end of the presentation. So again, there's still a few more people joining. So I'll go ahead and post this one more time for them. And then we'll be starting now. So welcome everybody. I hope you guys are having a great day so far. Today, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be talking about Google Classroom. And to start off, I want to just make sure we're all on the same page by explaining what Google Classroom is and some of the benefits you may see when using Google Classroom. Google Classroom was designed to be kind of an all-encompassing space where teachers can create assignments, distribute work, grade assignments, and then send feedback and communicate with students and parents. It is built in and integrated with all of the G Suite programs such as Google Docs, Google Slides, Sheets, even Google Forms and Google Drawings, if you're familiar with those. So everything that is accessible in your Drive can be used and distributed to the students through Google Classroom. And it really facilitates that based on the tools that it has, such as the ability to create a copy of each file for each student, and then we can track their progress, which I'll be showing you in a second here. Okay. I did hear a few more dings on my Zoom call here, which means a few more people have joined. Again, if you're interested in this, I'm going to go ahead and post that in the chat, the link to this presentation. Feel free to make a copy of this by going to File, Make a Copy, and select Entire Presentation, or File, Download as either a PowerPoint or PDF document. Okay. You feel free to also share this amongst any colleagues that are interested. This is completely up for you to use and distribute. Now, what I like to do, I don't really go through the entire presentation. I like to demonstrate how to do each of these things. So I might be referring to this, but I won't stick just to this Google slide presentation here. So the first thing I want to go over is actually how to create a Google Classroom. And we can access Google Classroom by going to the website classroom.google.com, which I've already done here on this tab. Can everybody or somebody just give me a thumbs up on your Zoom so that I know that you guys can see my screen and everything is clear? Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. Now, the first time you access Google Classroom, you'll be asked if you are a student or a teacher. Please make sure to select teacher because if you select student, you won't actually have the option to create a classroom. I believe there is a way to work around this if you accidentally click on student. However, it might require you to contact somebody who has access to your single sign-on. And so to avoid any obstacles, just make sure to select teacher the first time. Um, if this is not your first time, then it won't ask you anymore if you're a teacher or a student. This first screen is called the dashboard. It is where you get a quick glance at all of the classrooms you are currently in, whether you're in as a student or whether they're your classrooms and you're the teacher in them. Now, to create a classroom from the dashboard, on the top right corner, you're going to see a plus sign. If I hover over that, it's going to say create or join class. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and you'll see those are the two options that I have here. If I were a student, I would not have the option to create a class. I would only see join class. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and click on create class. You'll see I'll get a pop-up window with 4 different text fields. The only one that is required is the top field, which is class name. That's the only thing that Google Classroom actually requires you to do, is name your classroom. So I'm going to call this, just going to call this Tuesday training. You can call this something like room 25 or your school name, second grade, or your name on here as well. The second text field is for section. This is mostly used in higher education where there might be a section number. If you are in a college course or something like that, you might want to type it in here. The third text field is for subject. If you teach a single subject, different periods, you might want to add that in here. And then also the fourth one is room number. So you can add that information here as well. However, none of this is required. The only thing that's required is the class name. Once you type in a name for your classroom here, you'll see that this create button will turn from gray to blue, and we can click on this to start creating our Google Classroom. This will take a few seconds to generate, and then we'll be taken into the stream of our new Google Classroom. Okay. So you see that on the top here in the middle, we have our classroom name. And then underneath the classroom name, we have something called the class code. Now this code is unique to your Google Classroom that we just created here. No two classrooms have the same code. It might be difficult to see. So Google gives us this frame, if you will, this square button that we can click on, and it will enlarge our class code. This code is used by students to join our Google Classroom, which I'll model how they'll do that in a second here. Now, if you are in a traditional classroom setting, you might want to project this onto a wall so students can view and copy the code, or you may write this down on the whiteboard. And if you do need to project it and this is still not large enough, you can click on this square again on the bottom corner here, and it will enlarge it even more so. Okay. Now I'm going to copy this code because I'll be joining this classroom as a student in another account. So let me go ahead and model that now. I'm going to open up a different account here. And let's assume I'm the student and I can click on this plus symbol. Can everybody see this screen okay? Just want to make sure you can see it. There you go. Awesome. So again, this account is a teacher account, but teachers can also join classrooms. So I'm going to pretend I'm a student. I'm going to click on join class, and you'll see the first thing it does is ask me for a class code, which I will paste on here, and then we can press the join button. It will take a second, just like it took a second to create the classroom. It'll take a few seconds to register. And here you go. You see I've now joined the class as a student. Now you might be able to tell just from looking at this first page, there's some differences between the teacher view and the student view. I'm going to switch over to the teacher view. And just to point out a couple of differences, the teacher view has 4 tabs as opposed to 3 from the student. The fourth tab being grades. So this would be your grade book in your Google Classroom. You also have access to the class code as the teacher, but not the student. And then Google did start to release something called Google Meet, which is their version of Zoom. So this is built in, but it's not something that we'll be covering today. Now, sticking with this banner, the last 2 options on the right side here are select theme and upload photo. This will allow you to personalize your classroom a little bit. You might have seen either on social media or maybe YouTube, there are teachers making something called the Bitmoji classroom or background. And this is typically where they would upload that image to give a personalized feel to their classroom. I'm going to model both options here. I'm going to click on select theme first. And Google has many pre-built themes that you can select from. You can select general, history and English, math and science. There's different categories for us to pick from. I'm going to choose one and then press the select class theme. And you'll see that not only will this banner change, but also the colors that are in the classroom have changed slightly. So that's how we can personalize this a little bit by selecting a theme. If you prefer to upload your own photo, you can click on upload photo and then select a picture from your computer. Now I do have a picture here. It's not really up to the correct size, but just to model what that looks like, you can click on your image. It will upload it. You can then resize this to fit your needs and then press select and your background will change as well. Now, once this changes for you, of course, it will also change for the students. Okay, and you can see it does this and almost exactly when I change the setting, this will switch over here as well. Same thing with a post, which I'll cover next. Whenever you post something, students will be able to see it right away. Now, we have 4 tabs up here as the teacher. The first one being the stream. The stream is where you would post any announcements that you have for the class. And it also keeps track of any new classwork that is assigned. So anything that happens in the classroom, whether it's announcements or classwork, shows up here in the stream. It is by default set so that students could also type in a message in the stream. I'll show you in a little bit how to change that setting if you need to. But for now, I'm going to model just creating a post, an announcement here on the stream. Now it will say here, share something with your class. So if we click on this option, you see I have a large text field where I can type up a message. I'm just going to go ahead and select and type in welcome back. Okay. If you needed to communicate something else, of course, this can go on and on. It's not limited to just a few number of characters. It could be as large as you need it to be. Up at the top, you may have noticed there's 2 drop-down menus. The first one is actually a drop-down menu to select multiple classrooms. If you are a teacher that teaches multiple subjects, or you see different students and you have the need for different classrooms, you can actually select all of your classrooms or some of them and then post this announcement across multiple classrooms at the same time. This would also be true if you were co-teaching in a classroom. You would have the option to post to that classroom as well. That we'll get into a little bit later, but again, just to review, this is for posting to multiple classrooms. The second drop-down will actually let you select the students in the class. So instead of assigning it to all the students, you can set it so that only a few students see this announcement. You would do that by just selecting or unselecting each student by clicking on the little checkbox here. Now I only have one, so as soon as I click this or unselect this, all of this goes away. But if you had multiple students, then you could choose and go down the list and choose which students have access to this announcement. Down at the bottom, you have the add button. This will allow you to add either a file from Google Drive, a link to another website, a file that's not in your drive, such as a Microsoft Word document, or maybe a PDF document, or you could also add in a YouTube video. Now, just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to add in the presentation that I shared earlier from my Google Drive. So I'm going to click Google Drive here. And you'll notice that I have different tabs up at the top. The first one being recent. So these are all the files I've opened up recently. If you want to upload a file, you can select that tab and then browse through your files on your computer and upload it. You can also search through your drive for a specific file, or select any that are starred in your Google Drive. I'm going to stick to recent and just select our presentation here. And I'll press the insert button down on the bottom right corner. Now you'll see it show up right here. That means it is attached and connected to this announcement. Let me go ahead and enable this for all students. And now the last thing is I can post the announcement, or again, we have another drop down where we can choose to schedule this announcement for a later date and time, or you can save this as a draft. So if you want to come back and work on this later before posting it, you can select here, save as a draft. Google will save it. It will not be viewable to the students. It shows up under your teacher view as a saved announcements. And I can click here, select my draft, and then finish it up and go ahead and post it afterwards, which I'll do right now. So once it is posted, the students can view that announcement right away. I'm going to go ahead and jump back into my student view. Now it doesn't show up here because I haven't refreshed the page, but as soon as I refresh, you see, I now see the announcement, the message, and I have access to this file that was shared. I'm going to click on that, and you'll see it pops right up to the file that was shared. Now, it just so happens that I have edit rights on this account for this particular file. However, if you do share a file from your drive, it will default to view only. So students will not be able to modify this file if it's posted on here as an announcement. The only way they would be able to modify the file is if you went into the sharing settings for that file and selected the option so that anybody with the link can modify it. Right underneath my announcement, here, let me move this up. Right underneath the announcement, you'll see there's a text field that says add a class comment. This is where students can respond to this announcement. They can type up their message and then press this little send button, and it will add it underneath here as a comment. Okay. Now, if you do need to modify this setting so that, you know, in case a student is maybe acting out and you need to control the amount of posts that they have access to, you can restrict their access to comments through the class settings. So I know I'm switching back and forth, but I want to give you kind of the view for both student and teacher. So I hope that's okay. As the teacher, we have this gear, this cog icon on the top right corner. And if we click on that, we get taken into the class settings. So the class settings can be used to modify anything from the class name, subject, room number, all the things that we talked about earlier. If we scroll down into general, you see there is an option for stream. And if we look to the right, this is set so that the students can post and comment. You have three options here. You can leave it as students can post and comment, or you can make it so that students can only comment, meaning they cannot start a new announcement. They cannot post an announcement themselves. They can only reply to the ones that you've placed. or the third option is that only teachers can post or comment. So these are three class settings that you can use to kind of monitor and control how your students are using that stream. There is a way to restrict access for individual students, and I'll show you that when we get to the People tab. Okay, but this is just in general the entire class setting. You do have some additional options. This is again going back into Google Meet, which is the video meeting option that Google provides, and you do have some grading options. I won't really get into the grading calculations and categories right now, but it is something that's available to you in the class settings. If you do have a question, okay, yeah, I did want to mention, if you do have a question, please go ahead and type it into the chat. I'll be checking it periodically and make sure I answer any questions that you have. There will also be a question and answer section I'll have at the end of the presentation if you'd prefer to save it until then. So I do have a question here about adding the students yourself. So there's two ways to add students to the classroom. The most commonly used way is through the class code. The other option, which I'll skip over classwork now and just go to people to model this option. So in the People tab, you have a list of all the teachers that are in the classroom and all of the students. Now, in both students and teachers, you're going to see this icon. It's like a silhouette of a person with a little plus symbol. If you hover over that in the student section, it says invite students. So I can click on this button and type up a student's email address, their MyMail account, and I can invite them into my classroom that way. Now, they'll have to log into Classroom and accept the invitation. They'll get a window. Let me just go back for a second. So they'll see a window like this in their Google Classroom, but they'll have the option to decline or accept the invitation. Okay, they would have to click on accept, and then they would join your Google Classroom. So those are the two options of how students can actually join your Google Classroom. Since we're here, I'll talk about inviting teachers. If you are working with your grade level, it might be beneficial for you to be co-teachers on each other's Google Classroom. And the reason for that is if you are co-teachers in a classroom, you can also post to multiple classrooms at the same time. So if, for instance, you decide to divide up the work and have one teacher post the math assignments for that day, then they can select multiple classrooms, just like we did with the stream here. They can select multiple classrooms that they're in and post it for everybody. But that option would only be available, again, if they are co-teachers in your classroom. The way to invite teachers is exactly the same way as you would invite a student. You click on this icon and you type up their email. And again, they'll receive a little box that says you've been invited to this classroom, accept or decline. They will also get a notification in their email as well. Now, this account is already linked up to a parent email, but just know that for every student in your Google Classroom, you can attach it to a parent or guardian email. And what Google will do is at the end of the week, it will send out a summary report to the parent of any work that was done or completed, any upcoming work that's due soon, or any work that is late and needs to be, and it's already late. So let me pull up an example of what that looks like. Google Classroom parent email, just so you can see how it is presented to the parents here. Okay, so this is a sample email that Google would send out at the end of the week. Here it's a weekly summary for a student named Felix. It has the date range of that week. And then under the student work section, this is the missing work and when it was due. And then it also has any work that's due the following week. And underneath that, we have class activity. These are any assignments that were posted, any questions asked, or any announcements made in the classroom, that all shows up there for the parents to view as a summary of that week. Okay. How you got the student view? Sure. So the student view, what I'm actually doing so I can see student and parent view is I am signed in with two separate accounts. There unfortunately isn't an option. I know that I think in Schoology you have the option to switch from teacher view to student view to see how it's presented to them. Unfortunately, you don't have that option here. But if you are co-teachers, you can actually not co-teachers. If you are a teacher, you can still join another classroom. And so maybe you have a testing classroom where you're testing out the features and you're testing making these assignments or moving these settings around. So you can join a sample, another classroom as a student, and you can kind of play around with it that way. It might be beneficial to make one for the grade level and have each teacher join in as a student. That way they can see how it would be presented to their students that way. It is linked up to an email. It's not linked up to a phone number, unfortunately. So yeah, the only option to send out the parent or guardian summary report is by connecting it to an email. And you should see something here in the middle. Unfortunately, this account is already linked up as I modeled it last time. But you should see something like email or guardian email on here. Yeah. Okay, if you did sign in a little late, I do want to post the link to that Google slide presentation. I won't go into it right now, but feel free to click on that link where you'll be able to see the slide that has all of this information detailed out for you. Let's go ahead and jump back now into the classroom tab or classwork tab, excuse me. This is where you would create all of your assignments and you could also create questions and provide materials. So we'll be going over each one of these one at a time here. Starting with the assignment, I'm gonna go ahead and click on that. Again, the only thing required for an assignment, just like for the classroom, is it's the title. The instructions are optional. The point value is optional, due dates, and all the other settings are optional. I'm just going to type in here sample assignment. Okay, and you'll notice that my assign button has already turned blue, which means I can assign this, I can send this out. Right now, there's no information and it would be very confusing for the students if they received an assignment like this. So let's go through the rest of these settings. Right underneath the title, you have the ability to provide additional instructions. Maybe you want the students to respond to or type up the main idea or main points in an article that you've assigned them to read. So you would provide some additional instructions on here, such as read the article and write down a brief summary, something like that. Now, if you are asking them to read an article, of course, we have to provide them with maybe a link or a document that has that article. We can do that with the add button down here at the bottom. So if we press add, again, we have the same options as we did for the announcements. We have Google Drive, we have link, file, or YouTube. If you are asking them to read something from maybe Newsella or something like that, you can provide the link by clicking here on link and then copying and pasting that URL onto this box and press add link. Just to make it, just to give a quick example, I'm just gonna copy this link here and paste it on there. And then you'll see I have this add link button now enabled. I can click on that and it will show up down here underneath the instructions for the students. Now, besides just providing them with a URL, you can, of course, give them access to a Google Drive file. Let's say that you have a template for the students that you want to distribute and give every student a copy of that template. I've seen it recently where teachers are creating templates on Google Slides, kind of worksheets, if you will, where they're able to click and drag and edit. And so maybe you want to create an assignment where every student gets one of these worksheets and they can modify it and edit that worksheet on their own without modifying your original. So what you would do is go into Add, select Google Drive. Let's assume that, again, just for demonstration purposes, let's assume that my template is this document here. I'm going to go ahead and select that, and the Insert button will pop up. I'm going to click on Insert here. And you'll see it is also added underneath the instructions, but there's something a little bit different about this Google Slide document. If you look over here to the right, it has some additional options. We have students, it's a drop down, and right now it is set to students can view the file. Now there are three options that you can set for any Google Drive file. The first one being students can view the file, meaning students can click on it and they'd be able to see the document. The second option is students can edit the file. Now, this would not make a copy. This would simply just give edit rights to all the students on one document, which is not typically what you want to do. There may be special reasons why you might for a particular assignment, but in most cases, this isn't what you want to do. The third option is most commonly used. It's make a copy for each student. Now, if you select make a copy for each student, what will happen is Google will take your original template, your original document, and create as many copies as the number of students you have and assign it to each one of them. Now, this is a very important setting because unlike students can view and students can edit, if we do not set make a copy for each student before clicking the assign button, let's say I make a mistake or I forget to change the setting and I leave it as students can view, I cannot go back and edit this option. Okay, so I have to make sure to select make a copy for each student before clicking assign. Otherwise, you will not be able to modify this setting. And I'm going to demonstrate making that mistake and show you an easy way of how you can, what you can do afterwards so that you do have a copy for each student. So I'm going to leave that alone for now. Moving over to the right, again, if you are in multiple classrooms, you can post this assignment across multiple classrooms. You can select individual students to assign this assignment to. Just keep in mind that if you are trying to post across multiple classrooms, you cannot select individual students from there. Okay, so if you are posting in multiple classrooms, it will post to all the students in those classrooms. You can also down here choose the point value, whether it's 100, you can select it as ungraded, or you can change this to whatever setting you prefer. Underneath that, we have the due date, which we can click on that and select a specific due date. And the last option here, not the last option, but the next option is a topic. So if you want to sort this, maybe this is your first unit in your math book. And you want to make the topic of unit 1, double digit addition or something like that. You can go ahead and create that topic. This will help you when it comes to organizing your assignments. I'm going to just go ahead and type up sample topic, and I'll show you where this shows up in the classwork tab. Now, underneath here, we have the rubric. If you do want to create a rubric, maybe you have a presentation, a report, or something where you have to check different criteria, then you can create a rubric here within Google Classroom. If you have one that you've used in the past, you can click reuse. I'm just gonna show you the different options when creating one. You can give this a title. Of course, what is this title for the assignment? So maybe it's a presentation. You can give the point values down here. We can start at 1. Maybe the next one is 2, 3, or 4, or whatever you need it to be. You can keep adding more, or it doesn't have to be this many. Just make sure that each of them have a title, which is the only thing again required. You may want to put a level type such as advanced, proficient, approaching. You can do that here as well. And then maybe a description of what it is that these point values, what you're looking for each of these point values. Now, if you have multiple criterion to check, you can add another layer by pressing this add a criterion, and you can continue for as many as you need to. Okay. Once you save this, you have the ability to reuse it for future assignments as well. Okay. Now, I'm not gonna save this, but just wanted to, I just wanted to present this to you as it is an option that you may choose to use. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. The last option is this checkbox. It's a check for plagiarism. This will check if a student has typed up a report and you want to make sure that they didn't plagiarize or they cited correctly. You can enable this option, and it will create a report on the percentage of where it might have been plagiarized from. Just know that this might not be 100% accurate, so please use it at your own discretion. Okay, and that would be actually the last setting here we have for assignments. Now, before we press assign, again, you'll notice we have this drop down. Google loves drop downs here. So if we click on that drop down, we can either assign it, we can schedule, or we can save this as a draft. So I'm going to go ahead and assign it. And remember, I did set this to students can view. So I'm going to model this mistake. I wanted to set it to make a copy for each student, but let's assume that I made that mistake and I've assigned it without making a copy for each student. Okay, now I realize, you know what, I forgot to change that setting. If I try to go in here, if I click on the assignment here, and I try to go in here and edit the assignment, you'll see that option is no longer available. I do not have the option to make a copy for each student. So what can we do? We don't want to redo the entire assignment because we spent a lot of time creating the rubric and typing up the directions. So what we can do is utilize here under the create button, the second to last option is reuse post. So what reuse post will do is it will allow me to make a copy of an assignment, whether it's in this classroom or in any other classroom I've been a teacher in, either currently or in the past. So if I've archived classrooms where, let's say it was one I used last year, I can go into reuse post and look through all of my classrooms. This sometimes takes a second to populate. Let me try that one more time. Here we go. So it'll search through all of my previous classrooms. I'll go into my Tuesday training, which is the classroom where I have that assignment that I mistakenly forgot to change that setting in. I can select that assignment. I can reuse it. And while it's creating it, it's not going to post it. Instead, it's going to take me back here to where I can modify this assignment again. And if I click here on the Google Drive template, I now have that option to make a copy for each student. So I can, instead of redoing the entire thing, make use of that reuse post option, make a copy of that assignment, and then modify my settings here and repost the assignment. Now, what you will have to do after this assignment is posted, you'll have to go back in and delete the original so students don't get confused. But a simple way to know which one is the correct one is to just look at the date or the time it was posted. This one was posted at 2:37. This one was posted at 2:40. So this one must be the one with the mistake. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that assignment. Now, you may have noticed that this large heading is above my assignment. This is the topic that I created in my assignment. So if I create another assignment with the same topic, it will be placed underneath here. Also on the left side, I'll get a list of all of the topics in my Google Classroom, and students can just click on it and they'll be taken to all of the projects with that topic. So that would be a quick way, as you know, this might get pretty long the more and more assignments you post. I'm going to switch over to the student view to show you a couple things. So notice how I have this notification that the stream was updated. So I can refresh my window this way. And I can see the posts that were made. I can see that there was a new assignment created. I'm going to head over to the classwork where I can view the assignment. Now, you may have noticed that this circle, this blue circle is colored in. When I have an assignment that has not been turned in as a student, it will be colored in. As soon as I turn it in, this will turn into gray, which is a quick and easy way for students to just visually check to make sure they've turned in an assignment. If you can still see the color in that circle, you have not turned it in. If it's grayed out, then it's been turned in. I'm going to click on this assignment and notice how I can see the link that was provided. I can see the directions, and I can see that there's a document here for me. And notice how this document now has my name on it. This is my copy, my created copy of that original template. Every student will have their copy. Their copy will begin with their name. If I click down here on View Assignment, here's a more stretched out view of all of the directions, any links that are provided, and then any work that I have to turn in. Links and items that you've selected to be view only will not show up as your work, as they're not items that the student actually produces any work or submits any work in. What they have to do is make sure that they are working from this link here. This is their file that they are using to modify to complete their work here. Okay, so yes, it might be deleted. So what often happens if students are not familiar with Google Classroom is they might click on this X. Okay, and if they click on this X, it will remove their assignment. And you might think, or the student might think that, oh, I didn't get a copy. It just so happened they might have mistakenly clicked on that X. Let me refresh to see if this text is still here. Okay, so it is still there. So this is actually something quite new where it says a file was copied, has been removed. So this was not here as of last school year. So I'm quite happy about this. It now gives them the option to make a copy of that original template. So I'll go ahead and select make a copy. It might take a couple seconds, but then they should see the file populate right here. What we used to do, here you go. What we used to do, or the way that I would help the students fix this issue is if they click on add, they can go into their Google Drive and that file will still be there. Just so that you're aware, everything that is posted or every assignment that's created and posted in the Google Classroom is also posted into your Google Drive. Google will create a folder called Classroom. And if we double click on here, you'll see these are all the classrooms that you've been a part of. And if I click on Tuesday training here, you'll see that I have my assignment right here. And I can see how many, this was done twice because I closed out one of them, but every student's file will be here as well. So this again can be found in your Google Classroom, in your Google Drive in the classroom folder. And then you have to look for the name of that particular classroom. Oh, I see. So how students can turn in work that they complete with actual pen and paper. Well, the other option here let me go over here to the student view. They can add something from their Google Drive or in their files. So if they have a picture of work that they've completed, whether it's a tear off worksheet and you want them to submit it that way, they can take a picture of it and add that from their computer. If they do it on their iPad or if they do it using the Google Classroom app, they'll actually have an option to upload something from their camera. And so they can use that to take a picture of the work and then it will attach here to their assignment and they can turn it in that way. So that's how I've seen kind of teachers utilize the Google Classroom app, as it does have that extra option to add something from your camera. Otherwise, I would say have them save it to the computer and then upload it as a file from their computer. Now, down here at the bottom, and I'm running a little short on time, but I feel this is important. If the students have a comment about the assignment, they can ask a class or post a class comment underneath here. If they want to provide or ask a private comment just to the teacher, they would do so over here on the right side. So this one is viewable by all students. This one is only viewable by the teachers. So let me now go back out here. As a teacher, you're going to see these options here on your assignment. Assigned, the number of assigned or students that have been assigned this project, the number of students that have turned in the project. And then after you grade an assignment, you'll get a third category that will be graded assignments. So if I go ahead and view this assignment as a teacher, I can, if I had more students, I'd be able to see each file for each student on here. I also get a list of the students on the left-hand side, and I can sort the students a few different ways. I can sort them by last name, by first name, or by status. Status means whether they've been assigned the project but haven't turned it in, or maybe they've turned it in, so this would change to turn in, or maybe they've been graded. So there's three different possible status, that they can have. Now, how to actually grade this work? Well, let me turn it in as a student, and then we'll go into grading that assignment. So I'll go ahead. Let's say I'm done with my project. I've turned in it. I've clicked turned in. It asked me to confirm. I'm going to click that one more time. Now, what happens is students lose edit rights to this document. They no longer have the option to edit. Thank you. They no longer have the option to edit this assignment. And that's something we have to be aware of, because if you do want the student to go back and maybe fix a mistake, a typo, they can't do that unless you return the assignment. So, which is what I'm going to model for you right now. So notice how this has changed from assigned to turned in. This status has changed as well. And now I'll get the option to provide a score. I can click here and type in a score, but let me go into the document and see the work. So I'm going to go ahead and click. Let me actually go back out here. I'm going to click on the assignment. If I had more than one student, I'd be able to use these arrows to switch between students and view their different files. I can provide comments by either typing up a private comment here, or if I have a comment that I use frequently, I can add it to something called a comment bank, where you can type up maybe some frequently used. I have here as an example, remember to capitalize the first letter of the sentence. I can just copy that instead of having to type it each and every time, and then use my keyboard shortcuts to paste it and send that in. And you can add as many of these bank comments as you need to. That way you can quickly just provide them with some feedback. If you do want to highlight a specific area of the assignment, for instance, a sentence or a paragraph, you would have to use the comments within Google Slides or Google Docs. And what you can do is click on this icon, which will pop up the assignment or their work in a separate tab. And then let's say I wanted to comment on the text here. So I'm going to highlight this text, and up at the top we have the comment button. You can add a comment here and type up your message for the students right there. So you can do this with you can do it with text, or you can do it with an image. Anything, any element that is part of this assignment, you can highlight and then attach a comment to it. Now, when you're all done and you want to grade the work, you can type up a score and it will save it as a draft initially. If you don't want to grade it now, you just want to provide some feedback and return it to the student, you can do that as well. You can just press the return button. That will grant them access to their, or actually edit rights again. So they'll be able to modify anything that they need to before they resubmit. Or if you are done and you want to grade it, let's just say we got an 80 on this. Notice how the score over here on the top left, it says draft. So this means that it is not published. The student does not know their score. They do not get notified of the score until you've actually returned the document. Okay. So also, if we click here on the drop down, you can return one submission, or you can, as you're going through this, you can grade each of them and then select to return multiple submissions at the same time. We are looking into that. We are looking into some parent classes. Thank you for the suggestion. So once this is done and scored, I'm going to go ahead and press return here. I'll return it to the student. On the teacher side of this, let me go ahead and close that and go back to the assignment. I'm going to refresh my screen here. And you'll see I now have this third option. This is, or third column, this is graded. We have one assignment that's been graded. Here's the score. And if I go over as the student, and let me refresh this. Okay, I see the score right here at the top. Okay, and I'll also be notified that it's been graded. Now, all of this actually gets populated in a fourth tab, and that is the grades tab in Google Classroom. So the grades tab is actually a spreadsheet, if you will. It has a column for every assignment and a row for every student. And you can use this to kind of quickly view at their scores. I know that some teachers, what they'll do is have multiple Google Classrooms, one for ELA, one for math, one for social studies. And so they're able to kind of pull together their grades just by glancing, or not glancing, but taking into account these assignments for each subject. So they have a classroom for every subject that they teach. If you do want to go in here and modify the score, you can do so here as well, but it's not typically used. You can also click on the three dots here to view the submission that the student turned in. You can also see the class average up at the top. However, most teachers don't really see that. They don't really care about that. All right, I think that's it. Let me just quickly go over to my presentation, make sure I didn't skip over anything. We talked about the stream and how it can be used to communicate with your students, provide them with files or links. Could also be used as reminders, or maybe any discussions. You can do so on there. Oh, you know what? I did forget one thing. I almost skipped this. Question and material. So if you wanted to provide the students with a prompt and that they would have to answer, you can assign a question, such as maybe you want them to introduce yourself. And then maybe you want them to reply to two students, after they've commented that. No, we don't need you to sign in. That's okay. Thank you. So we can type that up in there. This option has to be enabled though in order for students to reply to each other. we have students can reply to each other right here. Now, please note that this will only work if you haven't prevented students from commenting on the stream. So if you, earlier we talked about how you can limit who can comment on the stream by changing it so that students can post and comment or only teachers. If you have it set so that only teachers can comment, they will not be able to reply to each other, even if you set this setting. And then the option underneath that is students can edit their answers. And just like before, all these other options are available. You can also add a link, a file, anything you need to, you can do so right here. The last option here is material. This is just if you want to provide them with an additional resource. Maybe you have a typing program that you go to often, or maybe you have them go on Zern frequently and you want to provide a quick link. You can do so by providing them with this material. So again, that's all found in the Create button in the Classroom tab. Okay, and that I believe is officially it for my presentation. At this time, if you do have any questions, I'm just going to quickly scan the chat to make sure I didn't miss anything. If I didn't answer your question, please feel free to type it up into the chat and I'll go ahead and answer it. In the meantime, I do want you to know that there is an additional link that you can use as a resource. It's on slide 36. This is to the Google Information Hub. They put this together when we started long distance learning for teachers to kind of learn about different Google products, such as the Classroom or how to make a class website. So this is available to you as well. It's on this presentation. And then we do have some social media channels that you can follow us in. All of our PDs are posted into YouTube in case you want to view those at a later time. We have PDs not just on Classroom, but we also have some on Zoom, Google Forms. We've gone into Nearpod. Tomorrow, we're actually hosting one on Google Forms and how you can utilize that for assessments and quizzes or even surveys. When you're trying to maybe get some information from the parents at the beginning of the year, you can set up a survey form and send that out. So that's tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we're covering Edpuzzle and Jamboard. So those are two most requested websites that we've gotten. So we're going to do that on Thursday. So if you do have a question about this, you can email me here. Went ahead and posted that on the last slide. Again, my name is Josue Sanchez. I'm with ComputerWise Kids, and the email is down here at the bottom. Okay. If there are no other questions, thank you so much for joining me today. Oh, thank you. Thank you for your kind words. At the Bitmoji Classroom, I've actually followed a tutorial myself. So using the Bitmoji add-on from Google Chrome. So you do have to download that app and then set up your avatar, and they'll provide you with some images that you can use. Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Put the link, oh, the link of the slides. Yes, of course. Let me go ahead and copy that. Actually, let me get it from the top. Here we go. And you should see the link now. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's see, any other questions? You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate you joining me today. If there's no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop the share screen. Thank you so much. I hope to see you on Thursday. I'll be teaching that Edpuzzle Jamboard presentation, and tomorrow, Mr. Sean, another one of our instructors, will be teaching the Google form presentation. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.